My sister asked me to be her maid of honor, then told me I had to lose 30 pounds before her wedding or she'd replace me. I smiled, agreed, and started planning. Last Saturday, I gave a speech at her reception that made half the guests walk out. This morning, my parents are demanding I apologize, but honestly, I've never felt more free. Okay, so where do I even start with this absolute dumpster fire? I guess I should begin with some context about my relationship with my sister, because without it, what I did probably sounds completely unhinged. And maybe it was, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm 28, my sister Claire is 31. We've never been close, not in that best friends way some sisters are. Growing up, Claire was the golden child. Straight A's, captain of the cheerleading squad, prom queen, debate team captain, student body president, the whole package. I was the artsy weird kid who spent lunch in the library reading graphic novels and wore too much black eyeliner. I dyed my hair purple in 10th grade, and our mother cried for 3 days. Our parents never hid who their favorite was. Every achievement of mine was met with, "That's nice, honey," before they immediately pivoted to asking Claire about her day. When I got accepted into art school with a partial scholarship, my dad said, "Well, at least you got some money," and then spent 20 minutes bragging about Claire making Dean's List again. When Claire got into law school, they threw her a party and invited the entire extended family. I learned to live with it, made my peace with being the disappointment daughter, moved to a different city for college, built my own life, found my own people. I'm a freelance graphic designer now, which my parents still don't really understand or respect as a real job. I have a small apartment in a neighborhood they think is dangerous, but really isn't. A cat named Kafka, who's an absolute menace, and a tight group of friends who actually get me. I'm happy, or at least I was until 6 months ago. That's when Claire got engaged to Brandon. Brandon comes from money, old money, the kind where his family has a summer estate in the Hamptons, and casual photos in their house include senators and that one actor who was in all those movies in the 90s. His dad owns some kind of investment firm. His mom is on the board of like 12 charities. Brandon himself is a corporate lawyer, which makes him and Claire the perfect power couple. They met at some legal conference and bonded over their shared obsession with winning. The engagement was announced at a family brunch that I almost didn't attend. Claire and Brandon stood up. Brandon got down on one knee even though she already had the ring on, and everyone applauded. The ring was huge, like could probably see it from space huge. My mother literally gasped and clutched her chest like she was in a soap opera. After the congratulations died down, Claire pulled me aside into my parents' kitchen. "So," she said, that bright smile on her face, "I have something to ask you." I was refilling my mimosa, already planning my escape. Family brunches are exhausting. "Yeah? I want you to be my maid of honor." I nearly dropped the orange juice. "Seriously? Of course, you're my sister." She said it like it was obvious, like we had the kind of relationship where this was a given. We barely talked, maybe texting on birthdays and holidays. She hadn't called me just to chat in probably 5 years, but she's my sister, and some part of me that still craved her approval got excited about it. Maybe this would be the thing that finally brought us closer. Maybe planning a wedding together would give us all those sisterly bonding moments we'd never had growing up. Maybe she'd finally see me as more than the weird disappointment sister. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, and she didn't. "I'd love to," I said. She hugged me, and I tried not to notice how stiff it felt. "This is going to be amazing. I have so many ideas already." Brandon's family is very traditional, very elegant. It's going to be the wedding of the year. The first few weeks were actually okay. We went dress shopping together at boutiques where they served champagne and the sales associates called you by your first name. We looked at venues, country clubs, gardens, historic estates. We tasted cakes at a bakery that charged $15 per slice. Claire seemed almost normal, like maybe she'd mellowed out since college. We even laughed together a few times. She showed me her Pinterest boards. She had 7 of them, organized by category: ceremony decor, reception decor, florals, table settings, bridesmaid dresses, backup bridesmaid dresses in case she changed her mind, and one labeled vision board that was just photos of celebrities at their weddings. Everything was in shades of emerald green, ivory, and gold. Very elegant, very expensive looking. Brandon's family is paying for most of it, Claire confided one day over bridal magazine browsing. His mom has very specific ideas about what's appropriate. I'm trying to balance what I want with what she wants. That sounds stressful. It is, but it's worth it. This wedding is going to open so many doors for us. Brandon's making partner soon, and I'm up for a promotion at my firm. The right connections at this wedding could set us up for life. I should have seen the red flags then. Should have noticed how she talked about the wedding like a business networking event instead of a celebration of love, but I didn't. I was too caught up in finally having my sister's attention. Then came the bridesmaid dress fitting. It was on a Saturday afternoon, about 2 months after the engagement. Claire had already chosen the dresses, these elegant floor-length gowns in a deep emerald green with delicate beading on the bodice. The style was classic, timeless, undeniably beautiful, and expensive. Each dress was $400, which I tried not to think about as I handed over my credit card. The other bridesmaids were all her college friends and law school classmates. There was Stephanie, her old roommate who now worked at some fancy Manhattan firm. Madison, who'd been in her sorority and married a tech entrepreneur. Olivia, another lawyer who did something with international law that I didn't understand. And Jessica, Claire's best friend since undergrad, who was somehow both a lawyer and a lifestyle influencer with 200K Instagram followers. They all looked like they'd stepped out of a fitness magazine. The kind of women who do hot yoga and drink green smoothies and have never met a carb they didn't fear. They talked about their Peloton stats and their macros and their trainers. When we stopped for lunch between appointments, they all ordered salads with dressing on the side and talked about their cheat days. I ordered a burger and felt them all watching me. The fitting itself was at this fancy bridal boutique in the nice part of town, the kind of place with thick carpets and soft lighting and mirrors everywhere. The sales associate, whose name tag said Margot, brought out the sample dresses in various sizes. The other bridesmaids tried theirs on first. They all looked stunning, obviously. The dresses fit them like they were custom made, which I guess in a way they would be after alterations. They posed in front of the mirrors, taking photos, already planning their hair and makeup. Then it was my turn. I'm a size 12, which I know is literally the average size for American women. I'm not tiny, but I'm not huge either. I'm just regular, normal. But standing there in that boutique, watching Margot's eyes flick over me assessing, I felt massive. The dress fit, technically. I could get it on and zip it up, but it was tight in ways the others weren't. The fabric pulled across my hips. The bodice dug into my ribs. The beading that looked delicate on the other girls looked stretched on me. me. Margot kept tugging and adjusting, trying to make it lay right, but we all knew the truth. I looked wrong. Not bad exactly. The dress was beautiful, but I didn't look like the other bridesmaids. I stood out, and not in a good way. I could see Claire's face in the three-way mirror behind me, that pinched expression she gets when something isn't going according to plan. The same look she used to get when I'd show up to family events in ripped jeans when everyone else was in sundresses. It's a lovely dress, Margot said carefully. We can definitely work with this. Some alterations in the bodice, maybe let out the sides a bit. Can you give us a minute? Claire interrupted, her voice sugary sweet. Margot disappeared quickly. The other bridesmaids suddenly found their phones very interesting, fingers flying over screens, clearly texting each other in some group chat I wasn't part of. I stood there in front of the mirrors in my too tight dress, feeling like I was back in middle school gym class. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 5 minutes, Margot returned. Why don't you change back into your clothes, and then you and Claire can discuss the alterations. I knew what was coming. I've known Claire my entire life. I could read the disappointment on her face, the calculation happening behind her eyes. After the fitting, after the other bridesmaids had left with promises to text later and kisses on cheeks, Claire pulled me aside to a small seating area in the boutique. Margot had disappeared to give us privacy, which felt ominous. So, Claire started, in that overly sweet voice that means nothing good is coming. I was thinking, the wedding is in 6 months. That's plenty of time. I stared at her. Plenty of time for what? To get in shape. I know a great trainer, Claire. And my nutritionist is amazing. She got me ready for my engagement photos in 6 weeks. You could easily... Are you seriously telling me to lose weight right now? She had the audacity to look hurt. I'm trying to help you, Jordan. This is a good opportunity for you to get healthy. I am healthy. I'm literally perfectly healthy. I had a physical 3 months ago and my doctor said everything was great. You know what I mean. The other girls are all around the same size. You're just bigger. It throws off the aesthetic of the photos. There it was, the aesthetic. I was ruining her aesthetic by existing in a body that wasn't a size 2. Claire, I'm a size 12. That's literally the average American woman's size. For the general population, sure, but this isn't a general population wedding. This is, look, I'm not trying to be mean. Brandon's family is going to be there. Important people are going to be there. The photos are going to be in the society pages. I need everything to be perfect, and that includes my bridal party looking cohesive. Cohesive, I repeated, the word tasting bitter. You know what I mean? I just need you to be willing to put in a little effort. 30 pounds, that's totally doable in 6 months. That's like 5 pounds a month. Super manageable. I'll send you the meal plan my nutritionist made for me before my engagement photos. It's mostly protein and vegetables, very sustainable. And there's this gym near your apartment that, and if I don't? The question hung in the air between us. Claire shifted in her chair, suddenly very interested in her manicure. Then I'd probably have to replace you as maid of honor. I'm sorry, but I need someone who's willing to put in the effort for my big day. Stephanie would understand if I asked her to step up. She's been dying to be more involved anyway. Stephanie, her college roommate who once told me at a family dinner that I'd be so pretty if I just tried harder, who'd looked at the burger I ordered at lunch with barely concealed judgment, who was probably already texting Claire about how awkward the fitting was. I should have told her to shove her wedding up her aesthetically pleasing ass right then. Should have walked out of that boutique and never looked back. Should have saved myself 6 months of misery and humiliation. But I didn't. Because I'm a coward. Because some pathetic part of me still wanted my sister to love me. Because I'd spent my entire life trying to be good enough for parents who preferred her, and I couldn't break the habit. So I smiled and said, okay, I'll do it. Claire's face lit up. Really? Oh my God, Jordan, thank you so much. This is going to be amazing. You're going to feel so much better about yourself. I'll send you everything tonight. The meal plan, some workout routines, links to apps that track your progress. We'll make this so fun. Maybe we can even work out together sometimes. We both knew that would never happen. That night, alone in my apartment with Kafka judging me from the windowsill, I looked at the email Claire had sent. The subject line was, your wedding prep journey. The email was extensive. A detailed meal plan with recipes and grocery lists, workout schedules with specific exercises and rep counts, links to fitness apps and calorie trackers, a spreadsheet, an actual Excel spreadsheet where I was supposed to log my daily weight. There was also a note at the bottom. Can't wait to see the new you. This is going to be such a transformation. Love you. I closed my laptop and ordered a pizza. The next 6 months were absolutely surreal. Claire sent me meal plans every week, texted me every morning to ask if I'd gone to the gym, sent me articles about weight loss and health and the benefits of intermittent fasting. Every single conversation we had, no matter what it started as, somehow wound back to my journey. How's work going? She'd ask, and before I could answer, are you managing to meal prep on Sundays? It's so important for staying on track during the week. Did you see that new coffee shop downtown? Oh, be careful with coffee shop drinks. They're full of hidden calories. Happy Tuesday. Did you weigh in this morning? Remember, the scale is just a tool. I tried it first, really tried. Spent a miserable 2 weeks eating nothing but chicken breast and sad vegetables, drinking so much water I was constantly running to the bathroom, dragged myself to a gym where everyone looked like they knew exactly what they were doing while I fumbled with machines and tried not to make eye contact. Lost maybe 5 pounds that first month, felt awful the entire time. Constantly hungry, constantly thinking about food, constantly tired. My work suffered because I couldn't focus. My friends noticed I was irritable and withdrawn. Kafka stopped sleeping on my bed because I'd started setting a 5 a.m. alarm to work out before my day started. And Claire was thrilled. 5 pounds. That's amazing. See, I knew you could do it. Only 25 more to go. Only 25 more. Like 5 pounds hadn't nearly killed me. That's when I realized something. I was 28 years old. I had a college degree, a career I loved, an apartment I'd furnished myself, friends who actually liked me. I paid my own bills, managed my own life, made my own decisions about everything from what to eat for dinner to which Netflix shows to binge. Why was I doing this? Not for my health, I was healthy. Not for myself, I'd been perfectly content with my body before Claire's fitting room intervention. I was doing this because my sister, who barely knew me, who hadn't bothered to have a real conversation with me in years, had decided that my body was unacceptable for her wedding photos. I was starving myself and making myself miserable so I could stand in the background of pictures that would probably end up in a leather-bound album in Claire's house that nobody would ever look at after the first year. So I stopped. Ordered a pizza, a large one, with extra cheese and all the toppings Claire's nutritionist had marked as red light foods. Blocked the meal planning app, deleted the weight tracking spreadsheet, spreadsheet, canceled my gym membership, and got my money back for the remaining months. And I felt free, but I didn't tell Claire. When she texted to ask how the diet was going, I said great. When she checked in about the gym, I said I'd just finished a great workout. When she asked for my updated weight 2 months before the wedding, I lied and said I was down 15 pounds, totally on track. She believed me because she wanted to believe me. Because in Claire's world, everyone wants to be thin and beautiful and perfect. And of course I'd be working toward that goal because who wouldn't? The thing was, once I stopped trying to meet her impossible standards, I actually started enjoying the wedding planning. Not because I cared about the wedding. I was increasingly disturbed by how transactional and showy the whole thing was, but because I got really, really good at playing a role. I became the perfect maid of honor, organized everything Claire asked me to organize, kept spreadsheets of RSVPs, coordinated with vendors, helped her create a website with their love story and registry information, attended every dress fitting for her wedding gown. She had 6 of them. Planned the bridal shower with Stephanie, even though Stephanie made little comments the entire time about how Claire was so brave for keeping me as maid of honor despite my struggles. I smiled through all of it. The bridal shower was at some fancy restaurant where they served tiny sandwiches and expensive wine. I'd spent weeks planning it, coordinating with the venue, ordering decorations, creating a beautiful Instagram-worthy backdrop for photos, putting together gift bags for all the guests. It cost me over $1,000, which was more than I'd ever spent on anything that wasn't rent. Claire was in her element. She wore a white dress with a sash that said bride-to-be in gold letters. She opened presents and squealed appropriately at each one. Her friends took turns telling stories about her and Brandon, each one more saccharine than the last. When it was my turn to give a speech, I stood up with my champagne glass and said all the right things about sisterhood and love and how happy I was for her. Claire actually teared up. Our mother, who had flown in for the event, grabbed my hand afterward and said, "I'm so proud of how you've grown up, Jordan. You're finally being a good sister." Finally. Like I'd been failing at it my entire life. 3 weeks before the wedding, I had to go to the final dress fitting. I'd been dreading it for weeks. I showed up at the boutique and Margot greeted me with a knowing look that made my stomach sink. "Let's get you into that dress and see where we are," she said, in a tone that suggested she knew exactly where we were. I tried on the dress. It fit exactly the same as it had 6 months earlier, because I'd lost exactly 0 additional pounds since giving up on Claire's meal plan. Maybe gained a few, honestly, but who's counting? Margot kept glancing between me and the door, clearly sensing the tension. She tried to adjust things, tugging here and smoothing there, but we both knew the truth. The dress fit exactly the way it had at the first fitting. "It looks beautiful," Margot tried, her voice overly bright. "Really? The color is stunning on you." Claire arrived 10 minutes later, fresh from a meeting with the florist. She walked in with her phone out, probably Instagramming her way through wedding planning, and looked up to see me in the dress. Her smile faltered for just a second before she plastered it back on. "Let's see the back," she said. I turned. Margot was suddenly very busy organizing pins. "Can we have a minute?" Claire asked, and Margot practically ran out of the room. The silence was deafening. I could see Claire in the mirror, standing behind me, her expression cycling through confusion, anger, and something that might have been hurt. "You didn't lose any weight," she said finally. "No, you said you were down 15 pounds. I lied." Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession. "Are you kidding me right now? The wedding is in 3 weeks. You promised me you'd do this. You asked me to change my entire body for your photos. That's insane, Claire." "It's not insane. It's called caring about your appearance. God, why do you always have to make everything so difficult? Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? How embarrassing this is for you," I repeated slowly, something cold settling in my chest. "Your sister existing in her normal body is embarrassing for you." "At my wedding, yes. Is that so hard to understand? I have been planning this for months. Brandon's entire family is going to be there. Senators, CEOs, people who matter. The photos are going to be everywhere. And you couldn't do this one thing for me? This one thing. Like it's nothing. Like you weren't asking me to develop an eating disorder for your Instagram aesthetic." "Oh my God, you're so dramatic. Losing weight isn't an eating disorder, it's called self-improvement. But fine, whatever. If you can't be bothered to put in the effort, then I'll get someone who will. Stephanie can step up. She's been wanting to anyway. So that's it? You're replacing me? What choice do I have? I need my bridal party to look cohesive. She stopped, taking a breath, visibly trying to compose herself. "Look, I don't want to fight. This is supposed to be a happy time. Can you please just try? For me? It's only 3 weeks. You could do a crash diet, lose at least some of the weight." "No," she blinked. "No, I'm not doing a crash diet. I'm not losing weight. I'm not changing anything about myself for your wedding photos." "Then you're not being my maid of honor." I waited for the hurt, the devastation, the desperate need to fix things, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Okay, what? Okay, I'll fix it. You'll have your perfect wedding, I promise." I don't know what she heard in my voice, but she seemed to relax slightly. "Thank you. Finally. I knew you'd come around. You just need to. I'll make sure your wedding is exactly what you deserve, Claire." She smiled, missing the edge in my tone. "That's all I'm asking. Now we need to call Stephanie and let her know." "Actually, I think I should stay on as maid of honor," she frowned. "But you just said." "I said I'd fix it, and I will. I'll make sure everything is absolutely perfect for you. That's what you want, right? Perfection?" She studied me for a long moment, clearly trying to figure out what had changed, but she wanted to believe me, wanted to think I'd finally fallen in line, so she accepted it. "Okay, but Jordan, I'm serious. If you show up to my wedding looking like this, I won't. Trust me." The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in performance art. I was the model maid of honor, did everything Claire asked and things she didn't even think to ask for. Organized the bachelorette party, a spa weekend at some exclusive resort that cost me a month's rent. I booked the rooms, arranged the treatments, coordinated transportation, even created custom gift bags for all the bridesmaids with monogrammed robes and designer skincare products. The bachelorette party itself was actually kind of fun, in a surreal way. Watching Claire and her friends drink champagne and get seaweed wraps and talk about their upcoming girls' trip to Tulum. They barely acknowledged I was there, except when they needed something. More champagne, a phone charger, someone to take their photo. I smiled and played my role. I gave a gorgeous speech at the rehearsal dinner about sisterhood and love and how much Claire meant to me. I talked about growing up with her, watching her achieve everything she set her mind to, how inspired I was by her success. I made our parents cry. I made Claire hug me and whisper, "Thank you for everything." I meant none of it. The wedding day arrived with ridiculous weather. Perfect blue skies, gentle breeze, ideal temperature. Of course, even the weather was on Claire's Claire's side. The venue was at a garden estate about an hour outside the city. It had manicured lawns, rose gardens, a reflecting pool, and a ceremony site under this gorgeous natural arbor covered in climbing flowers. Everything was in shades of ivory and emerald and gold. Claire had hired a wedding planner who probably cost more than my car. I arrived early because that's what good maids of honor do. Helped Claire into her dress, a stunning lace gown that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Did her veil. Made sure her makeup was perfect. Ran around dealing with small crises that weren't actually crises but felt urgent. The flower girl's dress had a loose button. One of the groomsmen couldn't find his cufflinks. Claire wanted a different shade of lipstick. Through it all, I kept my smile fixed in place. Claire looked beautiful. Objectively, she really did. The kind of beautiful that belongs in magazines. And she knew it. I watched her look at herself in the mirror, watched the satisfaction on her face. This was what she'd been working toward. This moment. This perfect image. Do I look okay? She asked, fishing for compliments. You look like a princess, I said honestly. Brandon's going to lose his mind when he sees you. She hugged me, careful not to mess up her makeup. Thank you for being here. I know things have been tense, but I'm glad you're my sister. I hugged her back. Me too. The ceremony was flawless. The music was perfect. The flowers were stunning. Claire walked down the aisle like she was on a runway. Brandon did indeed lose his mind when he saw her. Full on cried, which was actually sweet. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, all about partnership and ambition and building an empire together. Our mother sobbed delicately into a monogrammed handkerchief. I stood up there in my too tight emerald dress, holding Claire's bouquet, watching her marry into a family that probably had my parents' yearly income in their couch cushions. And I smiled. I smiled so much my face hurt. The ceremony ended. Everyone applauded. Claire and Brandon kissed and walked back down the aisle to dramatic classical music. The bridal party followed. Photos took forever. The photographer wanted every possible combination of people. Bride and groom, bride and bridesmaids, groom and groomsmen, whole wedding party, families, extended families, candids by the rose garden, formal portraits by the reflecting pool. I smiled for every single one. Then came the reception, and this is where things got really elaborate. The ballroom looked like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows, tables with ivory linens and emerald runners and centerpieces that were probably worth more than my monthly rent. Ice sculptures at the bar, a 12-piece band, not a DJ, a full band with a conductor in a tuxedo. Cocktail hour had a sushi station, a raw bar, a carving station, and a table of just cheeses. The amount of money being casually displayed was almost obscene, but this was Claire's dream, and Brandon's family had the means to make it happen. During cocktail hour, I made sure everything was running smoothly, checked in with the caterers, confirmed timing with the band, made sure the photographer had the shot list, verified that the cake had arrived intact. The wedding planner kept telling me I was doing an amazing job, that I should seriously consider doing this professionally. If only she knew. I chatted with guests, including several of Brandon's family members who were exactly as wealthy and slightly terrifying as I'd imagined. A senator who asked what I did and then looked confused when I said graphic design, like she couldn't compute a creative career. A CEO who name-dropped 3 other CEOs in the first 2 minutes of conversation. A woman dripping in diamonds who kept calling me Chelsea no matter how many times I corrected her. Then dinner started. The salads alone probably cost more than a normal dinner for 4. The main course was a choice between filet mignon, Chilean sea bass, or some kind of fancy vegetarian option that had truffle oil and microgreens. Everything was perfectly plated like art. I barely tasted mine. My stomach was churning with anticipation. Then came the speeches. The father of the bride went first. My dad gave this rambling speech about watching Claire grow up, how proud he was of everything she'd accomplished, how Brandon was the perfect addition to our family. He made exactly one reference to me saying, and of course her sister Jordan is here too. The entire ballroom knew which daughter was the favorite. Brandon's dad spoke next, welcoming Claire into their family with the kind of formality that suggested this was as much a business merger as a marriage. He talked about legacy and tradition, and continuing the family name with the right kind of people. Then the best man, Brandon's brother, who told some story about a college prank involving a stolen mascot costume and a campus security chase. Everyone laughed at the appropriate moments. He ended with a toast about brotherhood and finding your perfect match. Then the band leader announced, and now, the maid of honor, Jordan. This was it. I stood up, champagne glass in hand. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every single person in this ballroom, about 200 people in designer clothes and inherited jewelry, turned to look at me. I smiled at them. Smiled at Claire, who was beaming at her head table, probably relieved I'd made it this far without causing a scene. Smiled at my parents, who looked vaguely proud that I was managing to behave appropriately at a formal event. Hi everyone, I started, my voice echoing slightly in the massive space. For those who don't know me, I'm Jordan, Claire's sister and maid of honor. I want to start by saying how beautiful everything is today. Truly stunning. Claire has worked so hard to make sure every single detail is absolutely perfect. And I mean every detail. The room was still smiling, comfortable. This was going to be a normal maid of honor speech. Funny anecdotes, heartfelt sentiments, a toast to the happy couple. I took a sip of champagne. 6 months ago, Claire asked me to be her maid of honor. I was so honored, really. Claire and I have always had, let's say, a complicated relationship. She's the successful one, the pretty one, the favorite daughter. I'm the artsy, weird one, who never quite measured up. But I thought maybe, just maybe, this wedding could bring us closer together. Maybe we'd finally have that sister bond everyone always talks about. Claire's smile was starting to look a little fixed, but the room was still with me. Lots of people have complicated sibling relationships, right? This was relatable. But then, about 2 months after she asked me to be her maid of honor, we had a bridesmaid dress fitting, and Claire pulled me aside and told me something interesting. She told me that I needed to lose 30 pounds before the wedding. Not for health reasons. I'm perfectly healthy. My doctor's very happy with me. But because my body, as it exists, didn't fit her aesthetic. I was ruining the photos by being a size 12. The smiles were faltering now. I could see people glancing at each other, at Claire. Claire's face had gone from white to red to a color I didn't know human skin could achieve. She said if I didn't lose the weight, she'd replace me as maid of honor with Stephanie, because Stephanie would understand the importance of looking cohesive. I gestured towards Stephanie, who was sitting with the other bridesmaids, her face frozen in horror. Hi, Stephanie. Jordan. Claire started to stand, but Brandon put a hand on her arm. He looked confused, like he was trying to figure out if this was some kind of roast humor he wasn't getting. Now, I could have told her no right then, could have walked away. But instead, I said yes. I said I'd lose the weight. I said I'd follow her meal plans and her workout routines and track my daily weight on a spreadsheet. Yes, there was a spreadsheet, because I wanted my sister to love me, because I've spent my entire life trying to be good enough for a family that has made it very clear I will never measure up. My father half stood from his seat. That's enough, Jordan. I ignored him, so I tried. For about 2 weeks, I tried. I ate nothing but chicken and vegetables. I went to a gym where I felt like everyone was judging me because I didn't look like I belonged there. I was miserable, constantly hungry, constantly exhausted, and I lost maybe 5 pounds. 5 pounds that Claire celebrated like I'd won the Olympics, while simultaneously reminding me that I had 25 more to go. The room was dead silent now except for some uncomfortable shifting. Our mother had her hand over her mouth. Claire was shaking her head, tears starting to stream down her face, ruining her carefully applied makeup. And then I realized something. I'm 28 years old. I have a career I love, friends who actually like me, a life that I've built for myself. Why was I starving myself for wedding photos that no one's going to look at after a year? So I stopped. Stopped dieting, stopped going to the gym, stopped tracking my weight, and I felt free for the first time in months. Jordan, stop this right now, my mother hissed from her table. But I didn't tell Claire I'd stopped, I continued. When she asked how the diet was going, I lied. Said it was great. Said I was down 15 pounds, totally on track. She believed me because she wanted to believe me. Because in Claire's world, everyone wants to be thin and beautiful and perfect. And of course, I'd be working toward that goal. Who wouldn't want to be acceptable for her wedding photos? I turned to look directly at Claire, who was openly crying now, mascara running down her face. Brandon looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. So here I am, Claire, still a size 12, still the same body you found so unacceptable 6 months ago, still ruining your aesthetic. But here's the thing, I spent 6 months being the perfect maid of honor anyway, organized everything, paid for everything, smiled through every passive-aggressive comment about my body. I planned your bachelorette party, which cost me a month's rent. I gave a speech at your rehearsal dinner that made mom cry. I coordinated with every single vendor, double-checked every detail, made sure your day was absolutely flawless. And do you know why? The room was holding its breath. Even the band had stopped their quiet background music. Because I wanted to stand up here today in front of all of you, I gestured around the room, at the senators and CEOs and society people, at Brandon's family in their designer clothes, at my own family looking horrified, and tell the truth about who my sister really is. Sit down, my father's voice boomed across the ballroom. Right now, I didn't sit. Claire isn't a bridezilla. That would almost be better, right? We can laugh about bridezillas, roll our eyes about wedding stress. No, Claire is just cruel. She's always been cruel in that specific way that beautiful, successful people can be cruel to those of us who don't meet their standards. And our parents let her be that way, encouraged it even, because she's the golden child who can do no wrong. My mother was crying now too, but I couldn't tell if it was from embarrassment or actual emotion. Do you want to know what it's like growing up as the disappointment daughter? Every accomplishment ignored, every achievement diminished. I got into art school with a scholarship, and Dad's response was, well, at least you got some money. Claire made Dean's List and we threw a party. I started my own business as a freelance designer, and Mom still asks when I'm going to get a real job. Claire got into law school and it was the proudest day of your lives. I looked at my parents, who were both standing now, my father's face red with anger. You taught her that some people matter more than others. That success means everything, and anyone who doesn't achieve at her level is worth less. So yeah, when she asked me to lose weight for her wedding photos, it was completely in character. Just Claire reminding me that I'm not good enough, that I need to change myself to be acceptable in her world. Jordan, please. Claire finally found her voice thick with tears. Please stop. Why? You've never stopped. 6 months of texts asking if I'd gone to the gym. 6 months of meal plans and workout schedules and articles about the benefits of intermittent fasting. 6 months of you treating me like a project, like something broken that needed fixing. Did you ever once ask me how I was doing, how I was feeling, if maybe your demands were hurting me? She didn't answer. I didn't think so, because it was never about me. It was about you, your photos, your aesthetic, your perfect day. You wanted everything to be beautiful and Instagram ready and impressive. Well, congratulations, Claire. You got it. I swept my arm around, indicating the elaborate ballroom, the crystal chandeliers, the ice sculptures, the tables that probably cost more to decorate than most people's entire weddings. The venue is stunning. Your dress is gorgeous. Your husband seems like a genuinely good guy. I looked at Brandon, who was staring at his plate. Although Brandon, buddy, you might want to pay attention to how she treats people who don't meet her standards. That controlling streak doesn't just disappear after the wedding, but hey, maybe you're into that. A few people in the crowd actually laughed. Nervous, shocked laughter, but laughter nonetheless. Brandon's face went red. But you know what you didn't get, Claire? You didn't get a sister who loves you. You lost that 6 months ago when you told me I was too fat for your wedding photos. Actually, if I'm being honest, you lost that years ago. Every family dinner where you and Mom bonded over your diets while I ate normally and felt judged. Every holiday where my accomplishments were glossed over while yours were celebrated. Every time you introduced me to your friends with that apologetic tone, like you were embarrassed that I was related to you. Claire was sobbing now, her face in her hands. The bridesmaids were frozen in their seats, unsure whether to comfort her or pretend they weren't there. Stephanie looked like she might throw up. You wanted perfection today. You wanted everything to be beautiful and controlled and exactly to your specifications. You wanted me to literally change my body so I wouldn't ruin your photos. Well, I hope you got enough good pictures before this speech, because this moment, this is going to be the story people tell about your wedding for years to come. Not the flowers, not the venue, not the 12-piece band. My 3-minute truth bomb about what it's like to be the sister of someone who values appearance over everything else. I raised my champagne glass and the gesture felt surreal, like I was in a movie watching myself from outside my body. So here's my toast to Claire and Brandon. May your marriage be as flawless as this wedding. May you never have to deal with anyone as embarrassingly imperfect as me. May you build that empire you talked about in your vows, and may you surround yourselves only with people who meet your standards. And may you eventually, someday, realize that loving someone means loving all of them, not just the parts that fit your aesthetic or reflect well on you in photos. I drank the entire glass of champagne in one go, set it down with a definitive clink on the head table, and looked around the room one last time. Oh, and one more thing. wedding. Claire, you're going to tell people I ruined your wedding, that I was jealous or bitter or crazy, that I had some kind of breakdown. But we both know the truth. I didn't ruin your wedding. I just refused to keep pretending that what you did to me was okay. There's a difference. The silence was deafening. Then I turned and walked out. Not ran, walked, head high, shoulders back, in my too tight emerald dress and painful heels. I walked through that silent ballroom, past tables full of shocked faces, past the ice sculptures and the elaborate centerpieces, past the band frozen mid-song, past my parents who were both red-faced with fury and shame. Behind me, the silence erupted into chaos. I could hear my mother shrieking, Claire's sobs getting louder, voices all talking over each other. Someone, maybe Brandon's mother, said something about calling security. My father's voice boomed, Jordan Marie, you get back here right now. I kept walking. I made it to the lobby of the venue, then out the front doors, then across the gravel parking lot. My phone was already buzzing in my clutch. My mother, my father, Claire's number over and over. Text messages coming in so fast my phone couldn't keep up. I got to my car, kicked off my horrible heels, and stood there barefoot on the asphalt, breathing hard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. I could hear music starting up again inside. The band trying to salvage the reception probably, or maybe everyone was leaving. I didn't know and I didn't care. My hands were shaking as I tried to unlock my car. Took me 3 tries to get the key in. When I finally got the door open, I just stood there, one hand on the roof, trying to process what I'd just done. Holy crap, I'd actually done it. I'd stood up in front of 200 people, senators, CEOs, society people, my entire family, and told the truth about Claire, about our parents, about everything I'd been swallowing down my entire life. My best friend Alicia, who'd been my +1, came running out about 5 minutes later. She'd been seated in the back with the courtesy invites, the people Claire didn't really want there but had to invite anyway. I'd warned her something might happen, but I don't think she really believed me. Jordan, oh my god. She reached me and just grabbed my shoulders, staring at me with wide eyes. Are you okay? I started laughing. Couldn't stop. Laughed until I was crying, and then I was just crying, and Alicia was hugging me while I ugly sobbed in a country club parking lot in a bridesmaid dress that cost $400. I can't believe I did that. I managed between gasps. I can't believe you didn't do it sooner. Jordan, what she did to you? That was so messed up. So messed up. I just ruined her wedding. She ruined your relationship 6 months ago. You just made sure everyone knew about it. We stood there for a while, me crying and Alicia holding me. Cars started leaving, guests making early exits. I watched them go, trying not to make eye contact. Some people glanced over at us. Most pretended not to see. Then I saw Claire's college friends, Stephanie, Madison, Olivia, Jessica, all walking out together. They were talking in hushed, urgent voices. When they saw me, Stephanie looked away quickly. But Jessica, surprisingly, met my eyes and gave me the smallest nod before they got into a black Mercedes and drove away. My Uncle Dave walked by and I prepared for judgment, but he gave me a thumbs up through his car window and mouthed, "Good for you." Aunt Linda blew me a kiss. My cousin Sarah, who I barely knew, stopped and said she had that coming before walking to her car, but my parents didn't come out. They stayed through the whole thing, doing damage control, probably apologizing to Brandon's family for raising such a disaster of a daughter. Alicia finally convinced me to get in her car. "You can't drive right now, look at you. You're shaking." She was right. My whole body was trembling, adrenaline and emotion and shock all mixed together. We sat in her car for a long time, watching more people leave. The parking lot was half empty within an hour of my speech. Claire's perfect reception cut short. My phone kept buzzing. Message after message after message. "Mom, how could you do this to your sister?" "Dad, you owe Claire and this entire family an apology. What you did was unforgivable. Claire, I will never forgive you for this. Never." Unknown numbers, probably Brandon's family, with messages I deleted without reading. But then other messages started coming through. Cousin Sarah. "Holy shit, that took guts. Claire has been awful to you for years and someone needed to say it." My Aunt Linda. "Your mother is having hysterics and your father is making threats, but I want you to know I'm proud of you." Claire needed to hear that. Uncle Dave. "Call me if you need anything. Your parents are out of their minds right now, but you did the right thing." And then surprisingly, a text from Jessica, one of Claire's bridesmaids. "Hey, I know this is weird, but I've been friends with Claire for 10 years and I've watched how she treats you. What she asked you to do was wrong. I'm sorry we didn't say anything. The speech was brutal, but maybe she needed to hear it." I stared at that message for a long time. One of Claire's best friends, admitting that Claire had been wrong, that they'd all watched it happen and said nothing. Alicia drove me back to my apartment. The whole way, I kept replaying the speech in my head, the looks on people's faces, Claire's tears, Brandon's confusion, my parents' rage, that moment when I'd stood there with the microphone, feeling both terrified and more powerful than I'd ever felt in my life. When we got to my apartment, Kafka was waiting by the door, judging me as always. I changed out of the dress, carefully because even though I never wanted to see it again, it had cost $400, and into my softest, most comfortable clothes. Alicia ordered pizza, a large one, with all the toppings Claire's nutritionist had marked as forbidden. We sat on my couch eating pizza and drinking wine, and slowly, the shock started wearing off and reality set in. "I really did it," I said, staring at my third slice. "You really did. My parents are going to disown me. Your parents have been emotionally distant from you your whole life. What's the difference? Claire will never speak to me again. And that's a loss. How exactly? Jordan, she asked you to develop an eating disorder for her wedding photos. That's not a person who deserves to be in your life, but she's my sister. Biology doesn't obligate you to tolerate abuse. And yeah, I'm calling it abuse. Emotional abuse. What she did to you for 6 months, the constant monitoring, the pressure, the threats, that was abuse. I hadn't thought of it that way, but Alicia was right. It had been abusive. The constant surveillance, the implication that my body was wrong and needed fixing, the threat of replacement if I didn't comply. If a friend had told me their partner was doing that to them, I'd have called it abuse immediately. I just thought if I could be good enough, she'd finally see me, finally love me like a sister should. You were already good enough. She's the one who failed at being a sister, not you. We stayed up late talking, processing, occasionally laughing at the absurdity of it all. Around midnight, Alicia checked Instagram. Oh crap, what? People are posting about it. Not the speech specifically, but there are definitely some pointed comments on the wedding hashtag. I grabbed her phone. Sure enough, under hashtag Claire Brandon Forever, there were the usual wedding photos, beautiful shots of the ceremony, the venue, venue, Claire and Brandon's first dance, but in the comments there was tension. Beautiful wedding. So sad we had to leave early. Claire, you look stunning. Hope everything worked out okay at the end. And then from some account I didn't recognize. Nothing says perfect wedding like your maid of honor exposing you in front of 200 guests. Someone had actually posted about it publicly, or maybe multiple someones. The story was getting out. My phone rang. My grandmother, who I'd worried might take Claire's side. Grandma, before you say anything, Jordan, honey, I just wanted to call and say that what you did took guts. I almost dropped the phone. What? Your sister has always been a little princess. We all knew it. We let it happen because she was the easy one, the successful one, the one who made your parents proud. But what she asked of you was wrong. Your mother is having hysterics, of course. Your father is talking about disowning you. Whatever that means in a family that doesn't have money to inherit anyway. But I'm proud of you. You're proud of me for ruining Claire's wedding. I'm proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. You've spent your whole life trying to be good enough for people who were never going to think you were good enough. It was time someone said something. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me stories about Claire that I'd never heard. Times she'd been cruel or dismissive to other family members, instances of her treating service workers badly, moments when she'd said something cutting and everyone had just laughed it off because that's just how Claire was. She gets it from your mother, Grandma said. That need to present a perfect image, that obsession with appearances. Your mother was the same way growing up, drove my sister crazy. But you, Jordan, you're different. You're real. Don't let them make you feel bad about that. After we hung up, I sat there in my apartment, surrounded by pizza boxes and wine glasses, with Kafka purring on my lap and Alicia scrolling through social media, and I felt okay, not great, not vindicated or triumphant, just okay. I'd burned bridges, multiple bridges, possibly all the bridges. My relationship with my parents, which had been strained anyway, was probably over. Claire would never forgive me. She'd said as much in her text. Some family members would take their side, think I was a monster who ruined a beautiful day over nothing, but some wouldn't. Grandma, Uncle Dave, Aunt Linda, Cousin Sarah, they'd seen what was happening. They'd known Claire was out of line, and they'd said something, even if it was just to me after the fact. The next few days were surreal. The story spread faster than I'd expected, not in the mainstream news or anything, but in that specific world where Claire and Brandon operated. Social circles, professional networks, the kind of places where reputation matters. Apparently several guests had talked about what happened. Some were sympathetic to Claire. Poor bride, crazy sister, what a disaster. But others were not. Brandon's sister had apparently told multiple people that she didn't blame me, that what Claire asked was ridiculous. One of the other lawyers from Claire's firm posted something vague on social media about unrealistic beauty standards that everyone knew was about the wedding. And the photos. Oh God, the photos. The photographer had captured my entire speech, every moment of it, Claire demanding he delete them, but he refused. They were part of the day, he said, and he had a no deletion policy in his contract. So those photos existed. Me at the microphone, Claire crying, Brandon's confused face, my parents' horror, the shocked guests. Claire begged him not to include them in the final album. He agreed to that, at least, but he'd taken them and they existed, and apparently a few had gotten out somehow. Probably someone who'd seen them on his camera screen had snapped a picture. Those images circulated through group chats and private messages. I didn't see them, but Alicia did. She said I looked powerful, if that was any consolation, like I was taking up space and owning it. The messages from my parents continued for days. Mom, you've destroyed this family. I hope you're happy. Dad, don't bother coming to Thanksgiving or Christmas or any family event ever again. Claire's message was just, you're dead to me. I blocked them all eventually. What else could I do? There was no apology I could give that would be enough, and I didn't want to apologize anyway. I'd said what I said, and I meant it. But there were other messages too. My grandmother sent me flowers with a card that said, proud of you. Uncle Dave invited me to his 4th of July barbecue. Claire won't be there, promise. Cousin Sarah asked if I wanted to get coffee and catch up. I haven't talked to you properly in years, and I'm realizing that's because Claire monopolized all the family events. 3 of Claire's college friends reached out privately, not Stephanie. She was Team Claire forever. But the others admitted they'd seen how Claire treated me, that they'd been uncomfortable with the weight loss demands, that maybe I had a point. And then Brandon messaged me. Jordan, I don't know if you'll even read this. I'm not excusing what you did, but I've been thinking a lot about what you said. Claire told me you'd agreed to the weight loss thing voluntarily, that you were excited about getting healthy for the wedding. She never told me she'd threatened to replace you if you didn't comply. That's not okay. I've tried talking to her about it, but she's too upset to discuss anything right now. I just wanted you to know that I heard you, and I'm sorry for my part in all of this. We should have never let it get this far. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for listening to my wedding-destroying speech, but it mattered that he'd reached out, that at least one person in this whole mess had heard what I said and taken it seriously. Work was weird for a while. I'm freelance, so I didn't have to face coworkers or anything, but some of my clients followed Claire on social media and had seen the aftermath. One client actually said, I saw your sister got married recently. Congratulations. And I had to figure out how to respond to that. Yeah, it was quite an event, I settled on. My friend group was amazing. Alicia organized a fuck the wedding party at her apartment the following weekend. All our friends came and we ordered too much food and drank too much wine, and everyone took turns telling stories about times they dealt with difficult family members. It was cathartic in a way I hadn't expected. Maya talked about coming out to her conservative parents and being told she was going to hell. Derek shared about his brother who borrowed money constantly and never paid it back. Sam discussed her sister who'd asked her to be a bridesmaid and then criticized every aspect of her appearance for months leading up to the wedding. Wait, that hit a little close to home. I didn't give a speech though, Sam said, raising her glass to me. I just quietly developed an eating disorder and spent 3 years in therapy. Your way was probably healthier. We all laughed, even though it wasn't really funny. To speaking your truth, Alicia toasted. Even when it's messy and uncomfortable and burns everything down, to speaking your truth, we all echoed. I started therapy the next week. My insurance didn't cover much, but I found a sliding scale counselor who specialized in family dynamics. Our first session, I barely made it 10 minutes before I started crying. I keep wondering if I went too far, I told her. If there was a better way to handle it, maybe there was, she said. But you handled it the way you could in that moment, with the tools and emotional capacity you had. The question isn't whether it was perfect. The question is whether it was true. It was true. Then that's what matters. We talked about family family dynamics, about golden children and scapegoats, about conditional love and boundaries. She helped me understand that what Claire had asked of me wasn't just inappropriate. It was a test of how much I'd sacrifice to be accepted, how small I'd make myself to fit into her world. And you failed her test, my therapist said. I did. Good. Some tests are meant to be failed. I started drawing again. Real drawing, not just client work. I'd stopped somewhere along the way, maybe in high school when I realized my art wasn't as impressive as Claire's grades, or in college when I got too busy, or as an adult when I decided hobbies were frivolous. But I started again. I drew my apartment, Kafka in all his judgmental glory, the view from my window. I drew my friends, captured moments from our hangouts. I drew the wedding, not from photos, just from memory. Claire in her perfect dress, me at the microphone, the shocked faces of the guests. It was ugly and raw and honest, and I loved it. One day, about a month after the wedding, I got a message from someone I didn't expect. Brandon's sister, Emily. Hey Jordan, I know this is random, but I wanted to reach out. What you said at the wedding about Claire's controlling behavior and impossible standards really stuck with me. I've been watching how she interacts with Brandon, and I'm seeing things I didn't notice before. The way she plans everything without asking his input, how she talks over him at family dinners, how she's already planning their entire future without including him in the decisions. I tried to talk to Brandon about it, but he says I'm being paranoid. I just wanted to say thank you for saying what you said. It opened my eyes to some things. I didn't know what to do with that. I hadn't meant to cause problems in Claire and Brandon's marriage. Okay, maybe I had a little bit, but not seriously. But Emily's message made me realize that my speech had ripple effects I hadn't anticipated. People were paying attention to Claire's behavior in ways they hadn't before. I responded carefully. I appreciate you reaching out. I hope everything works out with Brandon. He seems like a good guy who deserves to be in a partnership where his voice matters. She replied, he is a good guy. Too good, maybe. He's always trying to make Claire happy, even when it means making himself smaller. Sounds familiar? It did sound familiar. 2 months after the wedding, my grandmother told me that Claire and Brandon were already in couples counseling. Apparently, the wedding aftermath had caused some serious conversations about their relationship dynamics. Brandon had started asking questions. Why had Claire told him I was excited about the weight loss when I clearly wasn't? What other things had she misrepresented? Why did she need everything to be so perfect all the time? Claire, according to Grandma, was not handling it well. She blamed me for planting ideas in Brandon's head, for trying to sabotage her marriage, because of course it was my fault that her husband was asking reasonable questions about her behavior. She's in therapy though, Grandma said. Individual therapy, not just couples. So maybe something good will come of all this. I hoped so, but I wasn't holding my breath. People don't change unless they want to, and Claire had spent 31 years being rewarded for her perfectionistic, controlling behavior. One dramatic wedding speech wasn't going to undo that. My parents still weren't speaking to me. Dad had apparently told the rest of the family that I was on probation until I apologized to Claire. Mom was telling everyone who would listen about what a difficult child I'd always been, how they'd tried everything but I'd always been the problem. It hurt less than I expected. Or maybe I'd just been hurt by them for so long that I'd built up a tolerance. Thanksgiving approached, and I'd been officially uninvited from family dinner. Fine by me. Alicia's family invited me instead, and I spent the day with people who actually liked me, eating too much and laughing at her dad's terrible jokes and playing board games with her nieces. You seem lighter, Alicia's mom told me while we were washing dishes. I've known you for what, 5 years now? This is the most relaxed I've ever seen you. He was right. I did feel lighter. Like I'd been carrying around this massive weight of trying to be good enough for people who were never going to think I was good enough, and I'd finally put it down. Christmas came and went. I spent it with friends, started a tradition of orphan Christmas for those of us who didn't have family to celebrate with or chose not to. We exchanged gifts, watched bad movies, made a dinner that was definitely not traditional but was delicious. I didn't miss my family's Christmas, didn't miss my mother's passive-aggressive comments about my appearance or my career, didn't miss Claire showing off whatever expensive gift Brandon had bought her, didn't miss my father barely acknowledging my presence. I'd spent so many years dreading holidays, and suddenly I didn't have to anymore. On New Year's Eve, I made a resolution. No more shrinking. No more making myself smaller to fit into spaces that weren't meant for me. No more apologizing for taking up space, for having needs, for existing in a body that wasn't what someone else wanted it to be. I got a tattoo in January, a small one on my ribs, where Claire would never see it even if we somehow reconciled. Just 2 words. Take space. My therapist loved it. That's powerful, she said. What does it mean to you? It means I'm done apologizing for existing. Done trying to be less so other people can be more. I'm just going to take up the space I need and let people deal with it. How does that feel? Terrifying and amazing. 3 months after the wedding, I got an email from Claire. Not a text, not a call, an email, which felt very formal and distant. Jordan, it started. No dear, no hi, just my name. I've been in therapy for a while now, and my therapist suggested I write to you. I want to be clear that this isn't an apology for asking you to lose weight. I still think it was a reasonable request for my wedding, but I've been thinking about our relationship and how we got here. You were right about some things in your speech. Mom and Dad did favor me growing up. I knew it, and I used it. It made me feel special, and I didn't think about how it made you feel. You were right that I've been cruel sometimes, even if I didn't mean to be, but you were wrong about other things. I didn't ask you to lose weight to be cruel. I asked because I wanted my wedding to look a certain way, and your body didn't fit that vision. That's not cruel. That's just being honest about what I wanted for my day. You ruined my wedding. Half the guests left early. The people who stayed spent the whole reception talking about your speech instead of celebrating me and Brandon. Brandon's family thinks our family is dysfunctional. His mother has been cold to me ever since. You damaged my reputation and my relationships, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. But my therapist says I need to take responsibility for my part in this, so here it is. I should have been more sensitive to how my request would make you feel. I should have considered that you might not want to lose weight, even though I can't understand why anyone wouldn't want to improve themselves. That's all I can give you right now. I'm working on myself, but I'm not ready to have a relationship with you. Maybe someday, but not now. Claire. I read it 3 times looking for the real apology that wasn't there. She was sorry for not being sensitive to my feelings, but not for asking me to change my body. She acknowledged our parents' favoritism, but framed it as something that made her feel special, not something that hurt me. She admitted to being cruel, but added, even if I didn't mean to be, as if intent negated impact. impact. It wasn't an apology. It was a therapy assignment she'd completed with minimum effort. I didn't respond. My therapist asked me how I felt about the email. Disappointed, I guess, but not surprised. What were you hoping for? I don't know. Maybe for her to actually understand what she did. To see that asking someone to lose 30 pounds for your wedding photos is fucked up, regardless of how nicely you ask. To acknowledge that I was a person with feelings, not just a problem to be solved. And she didn't give you that. No, she's still the victim in her version. I ruined her wedding. I damaged her reputation. Me standing up for myself is the problem, not her asking me to develop an eating disorder for her aesthetic. So what do you want to do? Nothing. I want to do absolutely nothing. No response, no engagement. I'm done trying to make her understand. She either gets it or she doesn't, and that's not my responsibility anymore. So I didn't respond, deleted the email, and moved on with my life. Spring came, and with it, a sense of renewal. I started going to yoga classes, not to lose weight, just because I liked how it made me feel. Started hiking with friends on weekends, took a pottery class just for fun, started dating again, casually, nothing serious. I was living my life without the constant weight of family expectations, and it was amazing. Uncle Dave invited me to his daughter's graduation party in May. Claire won't be there, he assured me. She and your parents have decided to boycott family events you're invited to, so you'll actually get to see the family that likes you. The party was wonderful. I saw cousins I hadn't talked to in years, aunts and uncles who were actually interested in my life. We talked about my design work, my apartment, my cat. Nobody mentioned the wedding. Nobody mentioned Claire. It was like I'd been part of a different family all along, one that actually valued me, and I'd just never noticed because Claire had always dominated everything. Your grandmother talks about you constantly, Aunt Linda told me. She's so proud of you for starting your own business, for building a life you love. She says you're the only grandkid who's actually happy. Really? Really? Claire's successful, sure, but she's so tightly wound. Everything has to be perfect all the time. It's exhausting just watching her. But you seem free. Free. That was exactly the word for it. 6 months after the wedding, I was having coffee with Alicia when my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jordan? A male voice I recognized but couldn't place. This is Jordan. It's Brandon, Claire's husband. My stomach dropped. Oh, hi. I'm sorry to call out of the blue. I got your number from your grandmother. I hope that's okay. It's fine. What's up? I wanted to let you know that Claire and I are separating. I didn't know what to say. Oh, I'm sorry? Don't be. It's been coming for a while. The wedding was sort of the beginning of the end, honestly. Your speech made me start paying attention to things I'd been ignoring. The way she needs to control everything. The way she talks to service workers. How she treats people who don't meet her standards. Brandon, I'm not blaming you. This isn't your fault. But I wanted to thank you, weirdly. You showed me who she really was before we had kids. Before we bought a house together. Before we got too deep. That took guts. Even if it wasn't what you meant to do. I really didn't mean to. I know. You were standing up for yourself. But it had consequences beyond just the wedding. And I'm grateful for them. I deserve to be with someone who sees me as a partner, not a prop in her perfect life. We talked for a few more minutes. And then he hung up. I sat there with my phone in my hand, trying to process what had just happened. What was that about? Alicia asked. Brandon and Claire are separating. Holy shit, because of the wedding? Partially. He said my speech made him start noticing things he'd been ignoring. But honestly, I think their marriage was always going to have problems. You can't build a healthy relationship on perfectionism and control. Do you feel bad? I thought about it. No. Is that terrible? I don't feel bad. If anything, I feel relieved for him. He seemed genuinely miserable in that conversation, like he'd been holding his breath for months and could finally exhale. You're not responsible for their marriage falling apart. That's on them. She was right. I'd given a speech about my own experience. What Brandon did with that information was his choice. What Claire did with the fallout was her choice. I couldn't control any of it. And I was done trying to manage other people's feelings about my truth. My grandmother called a week later with more news. Your parents want to have a family meeting. They're asking you to come. Why? I think they're realizing that their approach hasn't worked. You're not groveling for forgiveness. Claire's marriage is falling apart, and half the family is Team Jordan now. They're losing control of the narrative. What do you think I should do? That's up to you, honey. But don't go if you're expecting an apology. Your mother doesn't apologize, and your father thinks admitting he's wrong is a sign of weakness. If you go because you want to say your piece, not because you're hoping they'll suddenly become different people. I thought about it for days. Part of me wanted to go, wanted to face them, and have it out once and for all. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger over the past 6 months, knew it would be pointless. They weren't going to change. They'd spent decades favoring Claire, ignoring me, teaching both of us that my worth was conditional while hers was inherent. One meeting wasn't going to undo that. I texted my grandmother. Tell them no. I don't need to have a family meeting to know my worth. They've made it clear where I stand with them, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather spend my energy on people who actually value me. She called me immediately. Good for you, Jordan. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Really? Really? Your mother will be furious, of course. Your father will probably issue some kind of ultimatum, but you don't need them. You've built a good life without them, and you should keep doing that. I'm scared though. What if I'm making a mistake? What if I'm throwing away my family over something stupid? It's not stupid, and they threw you away a long time ago. You're just finally accepting it instead of fighting for scraps of their attention. She was right. I'd spent 28 years fighting for scraps, trying to earn love that should have been freely given, trying to be good enough for people who kept moving the goalposts. I was done. The family meeting happened without me. My grandmother gave me updates. My parents had apparently prepared a whole speech about family loyalty and forgiveness, and how I needed to apologize to Claire for ruining her wedding and damaging her reputation. When I didn't show up, my father declared that I was officially no longer part of this family until I came to my senses. My mother cried and said I'd broken her heart. Claire said she'd known all along I was jealous of her, and this proved it. The family members who were there, Uncle Dave, Aunt Linda, my grandmother, a few cousins, apparently pushed back, said that Claire had been out of line, that my parents had played favorites for years, that maybe I had a point about the whole thing. Your father stormed out, Grandma reported. Your mother followed him. Claire left in tears. It was quite dramatic. Dave said it was better than cable. Do you think they'll ever come around? Honestly, probably not. Your parents are too invested in their version of events. And Claire, well, her whole identity is built on being perfect and successful. Admitting she was wrong would mean questioning everything. That's hard for people. So this is it. I just don't have parents anymore. You have me. You have Dave and Linda. You have cousins who actually like you. You have have friends who love you. That's your family now. She was right, and I was okay with that. Summer turned to fall. A year had passed since Claire first asked me to lose weight. I'd gone from being the disappointing daughter desperately trying to earn her family's love to being someone who was genuinely happy with her life. I'd gained weight over the past year, maybe 10 pounds, maybe more. I didn't weigh myself anymore, didn't care about the number. My clothes fit differently, and I bought new ones that made me feel good. I ate what I wanted, moved my body in ways that felt good, and stopped apologizing for existing. I was freelancing full-time and doing well. My design business was thriving. Turns out when you're not spending all your emotional energy on family drama, you have more to invest in your work. I'd moved to a slightly bigger apartment with a balcony where Kafka could judge the neighbors. I'd started dating someone who seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not as a project to fix. And I'd reconnected with parts of myself I'd lost. The creative, weird, artsy kid who'd spent lunch in the library. The person who dyed her hair purple just because she wanted to. The one who wore what she wanted and ate what she wanted and took up space without apologizing. On the 1-year anniversary of the wedding, Alicia threw me a party. 1 year of freedom, she called it. All our friends came, and we celebrated not the wedding disaster, but the year of growth that followed it. To Jordan, Maya toasted, who taught us all that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. To Jordan, everyone echoed. I got a message that night from an unknown number. No name, just, I saw your sister's wedding video. The photographer's edit mysteriously included your speech. It's going viral in certain circles. People are calling it the most honest maid of honor speech ever. Just thought you should know. I looked it up. Sure enough, someone had leaked the wedding video, or at least the speech portion. It was on YouTube with over 100,000 views. The comments were mixed. This is so cruel. That poor bride. NGL, the sister had it coming. Asking someone to lose 30 pounds for your wedding is insane. I lost it at may you never have to deal with anyone as embarrassingly imperfect as me. Icon behavior. Family is so toxic sometimes. Good for her for speaking up. This is why you elope. I should have been mortified. Should have been horrified that my family drama was now public entertainment. But instead I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing, maybe just peace. I'd said what I said. I'd meant what I meant. If people wanted to judge me for it, that was their business. Claire must have seen it. Her Instagram, which I occasionally stalk from a fake account, had gone private. Her LinkedIn, which had always been meticulously professional, made no mention of being recently married. She'd removed Brandon's name from everything. I wondered if she'd watched the video, if she'd heard herself through others' ears, if any part of her understood what she'd done. Probably not, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I ran into Stephanie, Claire's friend and former bridesmaid, at a coffee shop a few weeks later. She saw me and froze, clearly debating whether to acknowledge me or pretend she hadn't seen me. I made the decision for her. Hi, Stephanie. Jordan. Hi. She looked uncomfortable, clutching her coffee like a shield. How's Claire doing? She's managing. The divorce is hard on her. I heard. She still talks about the wedding, about what you did. I bet she does. Stephanie shifted her weight. Look, I know Claire is my friend, and I should probably hate you or something, but that video is everywhere now, and I keep watching it, and I keep thinking about how she talked to you during the whole wedding planning, how we all kind of went along with it. You did. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have said something. We all should have. But Claire can be intense, and it's easier to just go along with what she wants than to push back. That's not an excuse. I know it's not. I'm not asking for forgiveness or anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What she did was wrong. What we all did by enabling it was wrong, and for what it's worth, you were braver than any of us. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Stephanie left, and I sat there with my coffee thinking about enablers and bystanders, and how systems of cruelty require everyone's participation. The video kept circulating. I started getting messages from strangers, women mostly, telling me their own stories of family members who'd asked them to change for weddings, to lose weight, to cover tattoos, to dye their hair back to a normal color, to dress differently, to be someone they weren't. You gave me the courage to say no to being my sister's bridesmaid, one message read. She wanted me to lose 40 pounds and I was going to do it. But after seeing your speech, I realized I deserve better than that. Another. I've been no contact with my family for 3 years because they couldn't accept me as I am. Your speech made me feel less alone. And another. I'm getting married next year and I just sent my bridesmaids a message saying they're perfect exactly as they are. Thank you for the reminder that people matter more than pictures. I hadn't set out to be anyone's inspiration. Hadn't planned to become some kind of symbol of standing up to family dysfunction. I'd just been hurt and angry and done with being small, and I'd said so at the worst possible time. But if my mess helped other people avoid their own messes, maybe it was worth it. My therapist asked me to write a letter to Claire, not to send, just to process. I spent a week on it, writing and rewriting, trying to articulate everything I felt. Dear Claire, it started. I've spent a lot of time thinking about why I gave that speech. You probably think it was revenge or jealousy or some kind of mental breakdown, but it was simpler than that. I was tired. Tired of being the disappointment daughter. Tired of trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it freely. Tired of making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. Tired of accepting crumbs of affection and pretending it was enough. When you asked me to lose weight for your wedding, it was the final test. Would I change my body, risk my health, my happiness, my sense of self to be acceptable in your photos? Would I sacrifice myself on the altar of your perfection? I thought about doing it, really thought about it, because I wanted you to love me so badly. Wanted mom and dad to finally see me as valuable. Wanted to feel like I belonged in my own family. But then I realized something. The cost was too high. The love I was fighting for, conditional, judging, based on performance, wasn't actually love at all. It was approval, and approval isn't enough to build a life on. So I stopped trying to earn it. And that terrified you, didn't it? Because if I could step outside the system, if I could refuse to play the game, what did that say about everyone still playing? I don't regret the speech. I regret that it took me 28 years to stand up for myself. I regret all the times I accepted less than I deserved because I thought that's what family meant. I regret trying to fit myself into a space that was never meant for me. But I don't regret finally taking up space. Don't regret speaking my truth, even though it was messy and public and destroyed relationships, because those relationships were already destroying me, slowly, and I just couldn't see it. I hope you're okay, Claire. I hope therapy helps. I hope you and Brandon figure things out, whatever that looks like. I hope you eventually understand that perfection is a prison, and that people who really love you don't ask you to be anything other than yourself. But mostly, I hope I never see you again. Not because I hate you, but because I've built a life without you. And and it's better than anything we had before. Take care, Jordan. I didn't send it. Burned it instead, a symbolic letting go that my therapist had suggested. Watched the pages curl and blacken in my apartment's fireplace. Felt the last threads of connection to that version of my family dissolve. 2 years after the wedding, I got another email from Claire. This one was different. Jordan, I'm writing this because my therapist says I need to make amends with people I've hurt. I'm not sure I'm ready, but I'm trying. I've spent the last 2 years in therapy, and I'm starting to understand things I couldn't see before. About perfectionism, about control, about how I was taught that love equals achievement and anything less than perfect is failure. You were right about a lot of things in your speech. I was cruel. I did treat you like a problem to solve rather than a person with feelings. I prioritized how things looked over how people felt, including people I was supposed to love. The weight loss thing, I'm starting to understand how messed up that was. My therapist's word, not mine, but it fits. I asked you to change your body for my photos. That's not okay. That's actually really messed up. And I threatened to replace you when you couldn't do it. That's even worse. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm working on being better. I'm learning to value people over appearances, relationships over reputation, imperfection over the impossible standards I held everyone to. Brandon and I are divorced now. It was the right call for both of us. He's dating someone who actually appreciates him, and I'm learning to be alone and figure out who I am without someone to control or a perfect image to maintain. Mom and dad still don't get it. They think I'm being dramatic, that therapy is making me too sensitive. They want me to reconcile with you so the family can go back to normal. But I'm starting to realize that normal was actually dysfunctional, and maybe it shouldn't go back. I'm not asking for a relationship. I'm not even asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I heard you. It took 2 years and a lot of therapy, but I finally heard you. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better from me, from mom and dad, from all of us. Claire. This time, I cried reading it. Not because it fixed anything. It didn't. Not because it erased the hurt. It couldn't. But because it was real, honest. The kind of apology I'd been waiting for my whole life. I sat with it for a week before responding. Claire, thank you for this. It means more than you know. I'm not ready for a relationship either. Maybe someday, but not now. Too much has happened, and I've built a life that works without you in it. That probably sounds harsh, but it's true. But I want you to know that I'm glad you're getting help. I'm glad you're seeing things differently. I'm glad you're choosing growth over perfection. We were both products of a really dysfunctional system. You were rewarded for perfection and control, and I was punished for being anything less. Neither of those things was fair or healthy. We both got damaged, just in different ways. I hope therapy keeps helping. I hope you find peace with yourself. I hope you build relationships based on authenticity instead of performance. And maybe in a few years we can try coffee or something. No pressure, no expectations, just two people who used to be sisters, seeing if there's anything worth salvaging. Take care of yourself, Jordan. She replied, coffee in a few years sounds good. I'll work on being someone worth having coffee with. We didn't communicate again after that, but it felt like closure, or at least the beginning of it. 3 years after the wedding, I was established in my career, confident in my relationships, comfortable in my body. I'd stopped checking Claire's social media, stopped wondering what my parents were telling people about me, stopped carrying the weight of their disappointment. I'd found a family of choice, friends who celebrated me, a partner who loved me without conditions, a community that valued authenticity over perfection. My grandmother still sent me cards on holidays. Uncle Dave still invited me to family events. I had a life that felt full and real and mine. The wedding video was still out there, still occasionally resurfacing when someone discovered it and shared it. Most epic maid of honor speech ever, or sister destroys bride at wedding, or when keeping it real goes right. The comments were still mixed, but I'd stopped reading them. I knew my truth. I'd lived it, spoken it, stood by it. That was enough. One day, I was teaching a workshop on graphic design at a local community center when a young woman approached me after. She looked nervous, holding her notebook close. I'm sorry to bother you, she started, but are you the Jordan from that wedding video? My heart sank. This was why I didn't use my last name professionally anymore. Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. I watched that video when I was 18, and my sister was about to get married. She wanted me to straighten my hair and wear contacts instead of glasses and basically look like someone else. I was going to do it because I thought that's what you do for family, but then I saw your speech and I said no. We didn't talk for a year, but we're okay now, and I got to be in her wedding as myself, so thank you. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'm so glad. It probably sucked for you though, losing your family like that. Some of them, but I gained myself, and that was worth more. She nodded, understanding in a way that only someone who'd been there could understand. That night, I added a new piece to my apartment wall, a framed quote I'd designed myself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to shrink. I thought about that girl, about all the messages I'd received over the years, about every person who'd been asked to be smaller to fit someone else's vision of perfection. My speech had been messy and public and dramatic. It had destroyed relationships and caused pain and created family rifts that might never heal, but it had also freed me, and apparently it had helped free others too. Would I do it again, knowing what I know now, knowing the cost and the consequences and the years of therapy and growth that followed? Yes, every single time, yes, because I'd rather be authentically messy than perfectly miserable. I'd rather take up space and risk disapproval than shrink myself into invisibility. I'd rather speak my truth and face the consequences than stay silent and safe in dysfunction. The wedding was 3 years ago, but the speech was still the thing people asked me about, still the moment that defined me in many people's eyes. But to me, it wasn't the defining moment. The defining moment was what came after, the choice to build a life based on authenticity instead of approval, the decision to value myself even when others didn't, the courage to walk away from conditional love and wait for the real thing. That's what mattered. Not the speech, not the drama, not the viral video, but the life I built in the aftermath. A life where I took up space, spoke my truth, and refused to apologize for being imperfectly, messily, gloriously myself. And if Claire never understands that, if my parents never come around, if half my extended family still thinks I'm a villain who ruined a beautiful wedding, well, that's okay. I know who I am now. I know what I'm worth, and no one's aesthetic is worth more than that.